For 100 years, the Chicago District Golf Association has stood for excellence in this extraordinary game of golf. Now the CDGA's magazine comes to life on TV. Chicago District Golfer celebrates the traditions of the past while connecting with the present. It's a golf show that is sure to inform and to have a little fun along the way. For what's important in Chicago golf, it's Chicago District Golfer TV.
On our June edition, we go back to the beginning of the CDGA. Jordan and Zach take us to the Quad Cities in the John Deere Classic. Chicago-based radius roll putters make sense and they make putts. We'll have plenty of game improvement tips. It's time for a road trip to a few of the finest courses and resorts in Wisconsin. And we visit an ideal 19th hole. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chicago District Golfer. You know, 1914's a pretty good year. Wegman Park made its debut in the city of Broad Shoulders. Of course, you know it today as Wrigley Field. And 1914's also when Wilson Sporting Goods was formed and the Chicago District Golf Association came into being. The CDGA was formed at Hinsdale Golf Club, a place still thriving today. The initial meeting's actually a golf outing in which representatives from 25 Chicagoland clubs took part. That event happened in the fall of 1913, and then in the spring, coal magnate Francis S. Peabody took charge and formed the CDGA.
Francis Peabody was a very successful man. He was founder of the Peabody Coal Company, which I think is still the largest coal company in the United States. And he was an executive, a man of action, and when he saw something or came across something that he felt needed to be corrected or improved, he took action. And he was very concerned about the welfare of the caddies that were working at the golf courses in the Chicago area.
Here in Hinsdale's Centennial Room, the club's golf history is celebrated through its many mementos and keepsakes. Its rich history includes the birth of the CDGA. In addition to caddy welfare, the associations formed to ensure that clubs avoided big events the same day as the CDGA held its tournaments.
The CDGA was started in 1914. Our state amateur started in 1931. They started to get into other areas. So like anything else, again, a company that's new or whatever, it started to evolve in different ways during the first 20 years.
The first year, they had a CDGA Amateur Championship. They had a CDGA Open, and they had a caddy tournament. And the trophies, I think, for those are all still available, including the caddy trophy. Chick Evans won the amateur championship.
There were some big-time tournaments around the Windy City from 1914 to 1933, like U.S. Opens, PGA Championships, and Western Opens. And getting around back in the day wasn't exactly ideal with courses strewn across Chicagoland. Thankfully, many of the courses were then, and still are, connected by railroad.
What you saw in those very early days is the courses were built along the railroad lines. The great road network hadn't been built. Before that, it was either the train or horse and buggy, unless you wanted to hoof it. And so, Chicago Golf Club was built along the railroad lines. Elmhurst, the original Elmhurst, Hinsdale, all those courses on the south side. And look up on the North Shore where all the courses are. Almost all of them are within walking distance or a short buggy ride.
When you look at it and you think of what the modes of transportation were back then, when you think of what the communication was back then, naturally there was no fax machines, let alone email and web and everything else that we take for granted nowadays. Everything was handwritten letters. It was not easy to go from point A to point B. As you look back, yeah, there were some limitations that they had. They probably didn't realize there were limitations at the time. But we look back on it and go, they did a lot of work to get this thing off the ground.
In the 1920s, Chicago Golfer magazine came along, the predecessor of Chicago District Golfer. Inside its pages, one could find information on courses around town, stories on tournaments, informative instruction, and the latest cool new products. And that remains true today.
You know, they talk about the 1920s being the golden age of sports. with Babe Ruth and Bobby Jones and everything else. And with the CDGA being relatively new, I think the timing of that fit very well with the expansion of the game and to have the CDGA there during those years. I think the other thing is just how the association kind of grew and expanded and started to bring in other services such as the state amateur in 1931, the handicap system in 1930. So the flexibility and the foresight of those individuals that founded us really set the groundwork for the future.
The handicap system was implemented in 1930 with about 4,700 players participating for the yearly fee of just $1. Coming up next, we'll check out the new putter that was conceived here in Chicago, and we'll talk John Deere Classic with one of the top players in the world.